join us. Leo, could you go ahead and help me um, go over what we've already covered? I mean, based on what you remember.
The last thing that we watched was um, we were on this bar, and he realized that that was a night of first for that guy.
For that guy, could you tell me why? What were the two firsts that he was talking about?
Because the white guy, said that that was the first time that heard, he has he has ever heard,
Mm-hmm.
he had ever heard
He
a black.
had, yes, very good, good adaptation there. He had ever heard a
uh,
black guy, a black piano player.
Playing like Jerry Lee Lewis, I believe
Mm-hmm.
that this was the name. And the second, because the second first was the first time that he was having a drink
With a black man,
with a black man.
right? The first time he was not the first time he was having a drink, but the first time he was having a drink with a black man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, and then we stopped right there, right? Okay, good. So let me just get the link here for us to start working on that.
Okay.
Hmm. Did you have a good weekend?
Yeah, I think so.
Did you do
Can
anything different? Anything special?
um no, nothing special. Just
Stay at
the
home?
yeah. I cleaned the house.
Uh huh.
How's the past of clean?
It's regular, so you can say I cleaned.
Cleaned. Okay,
Hmm.
cleaned the house and played some video games. I'm playing this game called Civilization. So you basically raise a civilization from the old age to the modern days.
Hmm.
You know, it's
Is
very.
is it a video game that has been, I mean, heavily advertised lately on YouTube and other places? Every time you go watch a video, there's a picture of a guy, for example, being washed ashore,
Mm,
and then he starts building a civilization. I mean, the graphics are kind of simple. They're not very sophisticated. Is it this one? No.
could be, yeah. The graphics are very simple, and the way that
Ah.
it evolves, like in this game, you have five kinds of victories. So you can win by having your religion spread in all cities of the world,
Right.
by domination, that is conquering all the enemies cities.
Uh-huh.
Scientific victory, that is when you send the first colonization to Mars.
Ah, tomorrow's okay.
um, Cultural, when you have more people going to your civilization because of like more tourists coming than going, so you are like a cultural landmark.
Mm-hmm.
And diplomatical, I don't know, the
Diplomatic.
diplomatic victory is when you have influence to like in any war, all countries would hear you, and you could install the world peace. It's when you have enough influence to get a
Mm-hmm.
peaceful world. So this is the five victories that you can get, and depends on you which direction you are going to.
Ah,
It's a
okay.
very
It's interesting. And what is it about this game that particularly attracts you? I mean,
the strategy and the similarity to the real life. Like you have
ah,
to, your consequence have effects similar to the real life. So if you decide to go um, too industrial, your environment, your ecosystem will start to respond to that, and you can have economic recession because of that. The other civilizations can decide, if you were a person who likes war too much, they can create like a world council to judge you and to attack you. You have to. It's not only about like, okay, I'm going to create a lot of soldiers and destroy everyone. You have
to think.
to yeah, just think and to measure your actions.
That's interesting. That's really cool. Because you know when you talk about video games, and I know that you're into them, but it's interesting because when I saw this one, I was very surprised by how poor the graphics were, and I thought, I mean, why is somebody advertising a game like that? And it has been heavily advertised, but now hearing what you're saying, it makes perfect sense. Okay, so listen, I'm gonna play it from here inside whereby, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll stop it from here too. Let's go ahead.
Okay.
Well, he reluctantly did so on the condition that I not reveal to this guy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I have to go a little bit because go back a little bit because I thought this would be the right position for us. Just 1 second.
Okay.
Even if we rewatch something, it doesn't matter. Okay, let me send it again, and here we go.
Mine. He's told me himself where he learned how to play. The guy didn't buy that I knew Jerry Lee. He didn't buy that Jerry Lee learned anything from black people. But he was fascinated with me that he wanted to buy me a drink. I don't drink alcohol, but I went back to his table and had a cranberry juice. He took his glass, he clinked my glass and cheered me, and then he made another announcement. He said, "You know, this is the first time I ever sat down and had a drink with a black man." So I'm thinking, this guy is really having a night of firsts here. And again, I was naive. And I had to ask him why 3 times before he told me I'm a member of the Ku Klux Klan. Well, I burst out laughing at him because I did not believe him. I knew the Klan didn't just come up and embrace black people and praise their piano playing and want to hang out and buy them a drink. It doesn't work that way. But we talked and exchanged information, and I would call him every time I was to come back to this bar, and he would bring Klansmen and Klanswomen to watch me play. Then it dawned on me. This is where I can find the answer to my question that I had formed when I was 10 years old, that I've been looking for. How can you hate me when you don't even know me? Who better to ask than someone who would join an organization whose whole premise has been hating those who do not look like them and who do not believe as they believe, and sometimes exacting violence upon them? So I got back in contact with that guy some years later. I went to his apartment and I asked him to give me the phone number and address of the Klan leader for the state of Maryland. Well, he reluctantly did so on the condition that I not reveal to this guy where I got his personal information. And he warned me. He said, "Daryl, do not fool with this guy. His name is Roger Kelly. He will kill you."
Okay. So Leo, microphone.
Yep.
Okay. So Leo, this is completely new to you, right? You haven't seen
Mm-hmm.
this part yet, and it's quite interesting, don't you think?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and first of all, let's. Oh, by the way, I was thinking about our class today, and I watched something, and I thought, oh my God, I have to show this to Leonardo. No, it's just that I was watching an interview with Donald Trump's niece. She has just published a book in which she talked a lot about Donald Trump, about the person who he is, that he can't be
Mm-hmm.
trusted, and that he's going to destroy the United States. Have you ever heard about this book?
Yep.
Have you seen the
Mm-hmm.
interview?
No.
Right. No, because in she gave an interview to ABC, the
Mm-hmm.
the network, the TV network, and in her interview, she says that she had to tell a story. She had to report something verbatim, or she said she could do something verbatim. And I thought, oh, that's cool. That's the kind of a word we've been using. But anyway, let's talk about this. So Daryl said the guy was having a night of first because it was the first time he had ever had a drink with a black man.
Mm-hmm.
And then
And then he asked the guy why. I
three
think he
three
asked him
times.
3 times.
Hmm.
Yeah. Why that was the first time that he was ever having um, a drink with a black guy. And then the guy said that he was part of the Ku Klux Klan,
Hmm.
right? So after that, I think Daryl said that he burst out of laugh, something like that.
Um, he he burst into laughter. He burst out laughing.
Burst out laughing.
He
Okay.
burst out laughing. So it was like an explosion of laughter.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Because he was not believing. Like the guy didn't buy that he was a friend of Jerry Lee Lewis. That Jerry Lee Lewis had learned with the black guys how to play piano, and then this was the time uh, of Daryl doesn't buying
Right. So
the
so this time it was Daryl who didn't buy.
who didn't buy. Yeah.
So Daryl couldn't buy that this guy was a member of the Ku Klux Klan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But
And why did he say that? Do you remember how
uh,
he elaborated on the
he
subject?
said that he knew the organization, and a Ku
Hmm.
Klux Klan member would never hug a black guy after a concert or buying a drink or having this conversation.
Because
So
that's
this
not
was not the behavior that the people of this organization would have
right.
with
See, so
someone
so
like
he
him.
knew it was not the way it worked. It didn't work
Hmm.
like that. Hmm.
And and then he understood that that guy was actually part of KKK, and they became closer, kind of closer. Every time that Daryl would go to that place, this guy would bring his KKK mates
Hmm.
and friends,
Clans, men and women, women
clansmen,
and women from the
women.
clan, right?
Hmm.
To hear him play, have a
Yeah.
drink, and have a good time.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And then Daryl realized that that was the best opportunity that he had ever found to get an answer for his question. That was why someone hates me if they why black people why white people hate me if they don't know me yet.
Hmm.
So he called this guy. They switch, not switch, they change
They
contact,
okay. They exchanged contact information.
exchange.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
exchanged contact information. So he had the guy's phone number.
Yeah, and he called the guy, asked for the address and the number of the KKK leader of Maryland. That was
Mm,
the 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 place
where they
where the,
lived.
where they lived. Yeah, and the guy advised him to not fool with
No,
with
don't
this
fool
guy
around with this guy
because he
because
was a big deal and he would kill him if he
right.
had the chance.
So Daryl was requesting a meeting with the Klan leader in Maryland.
Hmm.
So he asked this guy for his phone number, and he gave him the Klan's leader phone number on the condition that
He would not share who had give him
who had given him that information.
that information. Yeah.
Hmm. And he advised him not fool around with this guy because this guy would definitely kill him.
Hmm.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. So now I have a question for you, and this is a vocabulary investigation. Well, as far as listening comprehension goes, you understood everything. But the reason why I'm asking you this is because I want to see what connection you're going to make with an expression in Portuguese. Okay? Okay, so Daryl said something like this. Okay, so this guy started coming to this club and bringing him his friends, and he said he was a member of the Ku Klux Klan. Okay, it didn't make sense to him. But then he said that at this point, it dawned on him who who better to ask this question than to a member of an organization whose whole purpose is to do exactly that, to hate people without knowing
Hmm.
who they are.
Hmm.
The question I have for you, vocabulary um, scrutiny exercises I proposed earlier, is this: what kind of expression in Portuguese do you associate with this? And then it dawned on me that this was the place where I would find the answer.
Cair a ficha.
Fantastic.
I think this is.
Perfect. Yes. Had you, I mean, you've just seen the expression You've just heard the expression. It dawned on me. Now, had you ever seen it before?
No,
It
this is
was
the
the
first
first
time.
time. Okay, so let me write this down. Maybe you know the word. Okay,
Hmm.
so I'm gonna write in the chat box here just for a second. Okay, so yeah, look, it. I'm sorry that my keyboard here is in a terrible position. It dawned on me. Okay, so that's the word. The verb. Well, it's a noun and a verb. Dawn.
Hmm.
Okay.
Down.
Right. Have you ever seen this verb, this word? Do you have any idea of what that means?
Um, Down.
You don't have to know if you've
No.
never because you know.
Yeah, I'm thinking like this word is not weird, but I can remember where I know it. C- like dawn of winter. Is it something? The dawn of winter.
Well, actually,
Maybe from Game of Thrones.
okay, maybe you've heard in Game of Thrones, but let me give you a little bit of context so that you can figure this out because you're good at doing this. This is your thing. We've talked about this before. Okay, first of all, the word dawn. What does it mean? Well, it refers to daybreak. What do I mean by daybreak? The early hours of the morning when the sky is transitioning from being completely dark to kind of, we call that transition the twilight zone. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So what you see in the sky when you're going from completely dark to a light sky, you have that transition period, right? It's kind of dark, but you know the sun is coming. We also refer to that as daybreak. So the early hours of the morning is referred to as dawn. Okay? If we want to be more poetic in some films or poems, sometimes you hear things like, "Oh, look, it's like a new day dawning." So what is a new day dawning? Well, in Portuguese we say, "Oh, it's the birth of a new day." But if you say that to a person in English, they will know what you're talking about, but it makes no sense to them because they don't use the word birth for that because they have the word dawn. So, dawn is that period, the early
Mm-hmm.
hours of the morning, but it's also a verb. So, a new day dawning. Okay? So, considering these things, if I say, well, and then it dawned on me, what would be your logic association? Do your
And
thing. Do your
yeah,
thing.
the information, the understanding of the situation is something like the sun that would enlighten him in his mind,
Right.
and it dawned on him because it was getting brighter as much as he was realizing the opportunity that he had.
Great. It makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
What I like to say to my students is like this. You see, when Daryl started looking for an answer to that question, right? He said that at the age of 10, he formed the question in his mind, how can you hate me when you don't know me? And for 49 years, he had been looking for an answer to that question, right? So at the age of 10, was he close to the answer? So he was completely in the dark as far
Mm-hmm.
as finding or having the answer. So it was like pitch dark. He couldn't see anything. But then that day, it dawned on him. It's like somebody, like the sun appeared and illuminated. And then he kind of envisioned having an answer, finding an answer. Okay? Right. So now that we know this, let's advance. So the deal was get the number, don't tell anybody, and don't fool around with this guy. Okay? And here we go.
Well, he reluctantly did so on the condition that I not reveal to this guy where I got his personal information. And he warned me. He said, Daryl, do not fool with this guy. His name is Roger Kelly. He will kill you. And I was not to be deterred. But I had my secretary call Mr. Kelly and tell him that she works for someone who's writing a book on the Klan. Would he consent to sitting down and doing an interview face to face? I told her, do not tell him that I'm black. He'll figure that out when he sees me, if he agrees, right? So she called, he didn't ask what color I was, and agreed to do the interview. We secured a motel room. She and I got there super early. We filled up the ice bucket with ice, put some cans of soda in there to get them to get them cold, and to be able to offer him a beverage when he arrived. I didn't know what he was going to do, or once he saw me, would he attack me? Would he say, I'm not going to talk to you and walk away? Or would he come in and sit down and do the interview? Either way, I wanted to be ready to be hospitable and offer him a cold drink. So when he arrived, first in walks his bodyguard, who was armed. Right behind him was the leader of the Klan in a dark blue suit and tie. When the bodyguard stepped into the room and saw me, he froze. And the leader did not realize that his guard had stopped. He slammed into his back and knocked him forward. And they began looking all around the room like, something's wrong. Either we're in the wrong room or this is an ambush. So I stood up. I went like this to show I had nothing in my hands. And I walked forward and said, hi, I'm Daryl Davis. He shook my hand. The bodyguard shook my hand as well. I said, come on in, have a seat. The leader sat down with the bodyguard standing to attention at his right. I sat down, we got on with this interview.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm breaking it up into sections because then we have enough time and material to cover, right? Otherwise, it's too much information and we forget. Okay, so Daryl had the name and the number, and he got his secretary to call the guy. Take from there.
The name of the guy was Roger Kelly, right?
Right.
And his secretary called.
Okay. Can I just interrupt you for a second, right? Well, because this is an online class, but it's also a live video, and I want people later to see the other videos that we're doing and so on. I want to take this opportunity to apologize to you about something that happened in our last session. You didn't say anything because you're a very polite guy. At least you are online when we're live. Do you remember what happened last class when I tried to explain to you the meaning of the words "den" and "cubs"?
Dan and Cubs.
Yeah. Do you remember? Because he was in the Boy Scouts. He was in the Cub Scouts. And the den mother had allowed him to carry the flag. Do you remember having that conversation with me?
Yes, I remember, but I'm not getting your point.
You don't remember me doing something crazy?
Crazy?
Yeah.
No.
Insane. I did something insane. Well, I said that a cave is an animal. And and you were right there. And you looked at me and said,
A cave was an animal.
Yeah, the way I was describing, because you see, I used the hibernation process, the hibernation of bears, to explain that they go to a cave, but we don't call that place a cave. We call it a den. But a den is a cave. So a den is a cave. A cave is not an animal, and den is not an animal. The animal is the bear, and the cub is the baby bear, is the offspring. But because the thing is, not because I was particularly nervous, because I feel comfortable with you and I'm comfortable online too. I really don't care about the haters. I'm sure there will be haters there. But I watched the film later because I wanted to test the quality. I wanted to see if it had gone smoothly. And also because I wanted to learn about this experience, sharing and exchanging information with you. And if you get curious, do this later. Watch with that link that I sent you. Because when I said that, your eyes almost popped out. And you said, what? But you didn't interrupt me, I think it's because I immediately shift to a point in the conversation where I made it clear to you that the den was the place where they hibernated. But I did say that. Well, the reason why I'm saying that is because I want to share this with you, and I want to share this with people in general. I want to share this with all our audience because what I'm trying to say is this: because we are no native speakers, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. We think we have to be perfect all the time, and that's a terrible mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really comforting when we see a native speaker giving a lecture in his mother tongue and doing some crazy things, like making some crazy mistakes. Did you notice what he said about the ice of bucket, a bucket of ice with some soda?
Mm,
Because he said he wanted to be hospitable. So he had
yeah.
arrived at this motel room pretty early to set the place up. Do you remember why he brought ice?
For the beverage.
Yeah, to make them what?
Oh, he said warm.
Warm
It's not warm. It's
and
cold.
ice. Do you see my point?
Mm-hmm.
As students, as learners of this other language, sometimes we might do that and say, "Oh my God, how could I have done that?" Well, is it? Well, it's because my English is not so good. I'm also a little bit stupid and so on. And it's nothing to do with that. You know, when we're doing that, when we're talking, when we're having a conversation in any language, our language, but also in a foreign language, we do that. I
Mm-hmm.
did last week. I called a cave an animal. So I apologize to you. I'm glad you don't remember.
Yeah, I think I've erased that from my mind. I'm gonna
Okay.
check that later.
Yeah. Okay. But anyway, just wanted to put a
Okay.
disclaimer out there. So now,
Uh,
go ahead. So he had the secretary call him, and then
yeah, he asked the secretary to not mention his color and request an interview for a book that he was writing about the Klan.
great.
So the guy accepted the invitation and he set up this meeting in a motel home room that is a neutral place where they both could meet. And he got there very early to set up everything with an ice bucket to warm the beverage,
Yes.
and to in order to be more gentle, more um,
Hospitable.
hospitable.
Hospitable. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then he was just there waiting. The first person to join the room
To arrive.
to arrive was the bodyguard. Was a guy with a gun. He was armed.
He was armed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And when this guy entered the room and saw Daryl, he got very surprised and
First, he froze, right?
he
First.
froze.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and the guy, the leader, Roger Kelly, he was behind him, and he didn't realize that the bodyguard had froze, so he hit the guy, and both uh, like they both
They stepped
land
in. Uh-huh. They
stepped
stepped
in.
in. They moved forward.
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
And then the first thing that Darius did was offering his hand to shake,
Mm-hmm.
and both the bodyguard and the leader they shaked hands with him, and but they were kind of surprised, and he said that the first reaction of them was to question, to wonder if they were on the wrong room or if that was an ambush.
Mm.
So he was
Two choices. Either they
two
were in
choice.
on the wrong room, or that was an ambush.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But for his surprise, or not so much surprise, but for his he was telling the story. So he said that after that the guy sat and they started the interview. So,
They started
but the
interviewing.
bodyguard was stand in
Ah,
his
okay,
feet.
okay.
He didn't sit
It didn't sit down at first,
at
right?
first.
So we could say that both men were quite uneasy. They're
Uneasy.
uneasy. They were quite uncomfortable with the situation, right?
Hmm.
But Darrow did something interesting, something important, right? He received them with open arms, with the
Showing no
yeah
weapons, no.
showing the palms of his hands, which meant he was not carrying anything. He was not armed. And then I guess we could say that he very warmly welcomed them into the room and invited them to come in for the interview.
Hmm.
Right? Okay.
Right.
So let me send the next link. Okay, we're gonna go with 400 here now. There you go.
Down and do the interview. Either way, I want to be ready to be hospitable and offer him a cold drink. So when he arrived, first in walks his bodyguard, who was armed. Right behind him was the leader of the Klan in a dark blue suit and tie. When the bodyguard stepped into the room and saw me, he froze. And the leader did not realize that his guard had stopped. He slammed into his back and knocked him forward. And they began looking all around the room like, something's wrong. Either we're in the wrong room or this is an ambush. So I stood up. I went like this to show I had nothing in my hands. And I walked forward and said, "Hi, I'm Daryl Davis." He shook my hand. The bodyguard shook my hand as well. I said, come on in, have a seat." The leader sat down with the bodyguard standing to attention at his right. I sat down, we got on with this interview. But I had a bag beside me in which I had some blank cassettes. I had a cassette player on the table, so every time my cassette would run out, I'd reach down into the bag, pull out a fresh cassette. Every time I'd reach like this, the bodyguard would reach like this. After a while, he realized there was no threat in the bag, and he relaxed. A little over an hour into this interview, there was kind of a strange noise, and we all jumped. And I knew.
Okay.
Okay. That part was
I,
hard.
yeah, I'm sorry. I interrupted now because this moment when they realize that noise, it's a very important moment that is going to explain what develops, from this point on. The way this story unfolds. So, Leo, go ahead and tell me. So,
Yeah, this part was harder for me to understand. He said that they both had sat down, and he said that he had a bag behind his chair, but I didn't understand what was inside that bag and why he was all the time leaning to grab something. I'm assuming that's something for the table. Like, first I thought that was a uh, towel. Was that right? Like,
mhm.
I didn't understand what he was doing. But every single time that he was leaning to get whatever
Mm-hmm.
yeah, my camera.
Don't worry about it. It will come back. It will.
Okay,
It's the
every single
auto
time that
autofocus.
he was leaning to get something on the bag, the bodyguard would do the same thing with the gun.
So in other
Um,
words, every time he reached for whatever he was grabbing from that bag, which was on the floor next to him, the guy would reach for his gun, for his he would reach for his sidearm, right, with
mhm.
his gun. Okay, but that went on for a while until the security guard realized.
That there was no threat on that
Uh-huh,
bag. There was nothing that could.
and then from that point on, he relaxed. Okay. Would you like to know what was in the bag?
Yep.
Would you like to know what you did not understand? It's a funny story. Well, actually, and it's a story that makes a lot of sense. It has to do with you, with your age. It has to do with your generation.
Mhm.
Well, because this is old stuff, and they were using something nobody uses anymore. Do you know what a cassette recorder is? Have you ever seen a cassette?
Yes.
You
Yes.
know what it looks like, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
your generation is not supposed to know what it looks like because you were born and CDs were the technology, because you're 25 years old, right? So I'm not sure if when you were a kid, DVDs were already available. Were you? Were they?
Yeah, they were, but my mother had for a short period of my life some cassettes,
She had cassettes.
players.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. Do you know how to write cassettes? It's CASSETTES. E,
E.T.
double T, E, cassette.
Mm-hmm.
In English, the word is that. In Portuguese, we say the
It's
same thing.
K7.
But in Portuguese, we say the same thing. We say fita cassette, right? I don't know. Probably, but we borrowed from the English language, right? But what did the Brazilian industry do? We created a code for that, which is K7. Do you know what happened to me?
No.
No, I went into a because I lived in England from 1989 until 1995. Now, at that time, one of the biggest record companies, stores, it was it belongs to Virgin, the same company that owns the Virgin Airlines, right? Richard Branson, the British billionaire, he's the owner of a conglomerate of companies. One of them was CD stores all over the country, and at that time you could buy CDs. No, you could buy cassettes to record CDs. People still did that for some reason. And I had a cassette player, I had a CD player. And I remember going to a store because I wanted to buy blank cassettes. And I said, where can I find blank K7s? Very proud of myself because I was pronouncing the letter K so correctly and the number 7. And the salesperson was, I'm sorry, sir, what are you looking for? And then I described what I was. Oh, you're looking for cassettes? Yes, K7s. So then she took me to the end of the store where I picked them up. And then it was at that moment, and what expression that you learned today can we use in this case?
It dawned on you.
It dawned on me that we in Brazil had abbreviated it, with
Yeah.
the letters K and the number
Yeah.
7.
I think it's the same logical of cheeseburger, in Brazil. I think
Yes, the X.
we tend to do the same.
Yes, exactly. So anyway, so you see, the reason why you missed that is not the English thing. It's just that it's a piece of vocabulary that you have very little contact with nowadays. Even the physical thing, you don't think of. But for me, when he said, "Oh, I had a cassette recorder on the table," so every time I ran out, because the tapes were like 30 minutes long or maybe
Hmm.
60 minutes long, it was a long interview. So every time he ran out of tape, he would reach for a blank one, for a new one, and every time he did that, the security guard reached for his gun. That
Got
was
it.
it. Okay. Okay, so let's advance. Okay. Oh, Leo, by the way, I'm sorry that I started a little later today. Uh, so if you don't mind, now it's 8 o'clock. We can stretch a little bit, but at the same time, I don't want to invade your schedule for the night. If you need to break up a little earlier, just let me know. But do you
No
think we
problem.
can go ahead for another 10 minutes or so?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So let me send the link then, and let's go with 460 here, and there it is.
In which I had some blank cassettes. I had a cassette player on the table, so every time my cassette would run out, I'd reach down into the bag, pull out a fresh cassette. Every time I'd reach like this, the bodyguard would reach like this. After a while, he realized there was no threat in the bag, and he relaxed. A little over an hour into this interview, there was kind of a strange noise, and we all jumped. And I knew that the Klan leader had made that noise. I didn't know what that noise was. I'd never heard a noise like that before, so I automatically perceived it to be an ominous, threatening noise. And I was hearing that other Klansman's voice in my head, "Daryl, Roger Kelly will kill you." I didn't want to die. I popped up out of my chair. I hit the table. I was getting ready to come across that table and take down the Klan leader and the bodyguard because I was not armed. But I was going to just slam them down to the ground, take away the guy's gun. I did not want to die. I did not want my secretary to die. Well, when I came up, my eyes locked with the Klan leader. I didn't say a word. My eyes spoke loud and clear. They were saying to him, "What did you just do?" Well, his eyes had locked with mine. He didn't say a word, but I could read his eyes. His eyes were saying to me, "What did you just do?" And the bodyguard was looking back and forth between both of us like this. "What did either one of y'all just do?"
Okay, well,
Okay.
was it difficult?
Um, kind of, but I think I got the like the context. So,
Okay.
um, after more than an hour,
Okay.
um, suddenly they heard this noise that he had never heard before, and on that moment, he remembered that advice that the guy said to him that Roger Kelly could kill him. That guy could kill him if he had a chance. So he didn't want to die, and because of that, he had this reflection
This reflects.
reflex of, and this is the part that I kind of missed the action itself. I think he said that he popped out of the chair
Mm-hmm.
and hit the table.
Mm-hmm.
Was that?
Yeah, he said he was ready. In fact, he was ready to knock those two guys down, right? By pushing the table,
Mhm.
and and he said he was going to get the gun
Of
from
the
the security guard, the
mhm.
bodyguard.
But then he stopped, or when he said that when his eyes, when he made contact, eye
I con
contact
with the
with
guy. So
the
the
guy with the leader.
so he used the verb to lock. So when his eyes locked with him, so they were both looking into each other's eyes. Okay, so
Hmm.
when his eyes locked with the clan leader's eyes, he didn't say it's it. That's
Anything.
it. He didn't utter any words. Right? He spoke with his eyes, and the clan leader knew what he was saying. So what
Hmm.
was the exchange?
He was saying, "Why did you do that?
What did you do? Right? What did you
What did you do?"
do?
Yeah,
Right?
and the leader was saying actually the same thing for him, and the bodyguard was reaching his arm and looking for both them like what did you both did.
Yeah, what did any of you do? Because he was lost. The bodyguard didn't know how to respond, right? It
Hmm.
seems that he was very confused. So, at this point, I would ask you, what are you expecting at this point? What do you think happened?
I think the sound was not was not produced by any of them. Something out there, because the first thought that Daryl had was that that sound came from the leader.
Hmm. So he was kind of sure.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, he was
Like,
kind of
okay,
sure.
okay, this guy's kind of testing me, or he's about to do something with me because
Or
he
maybe,
remembered.
yeah, or maybe it was some kind of signal, like a sound signal, like a code that could mean that somebody from outside could,
Hmm.
shoot someone inside. He understood that as some sort of a threat, and all the time he had that message ringing in his mind, right?
Hmm.
The message that
They could he could kill him if.
that guy was going to kill him if he
Hmm.
fooled around, and he didn't want to die that day. He also wanted to protect his secretary. Okay.
Yes. What I think is gonna happen on this
Go ahead.
story,
Yeah, go ahead.
I think neither of them produced that sound, and but both got really scared because they were scared about what the other person could do. So I think either the Daryl was afraid of the clan's uh, actions or potential actions, and either the leader was afraid that maybe perhaps that was an ambush and Daryl was about to kill him.
So it's almost like a common fear.
Common
So
fear, yeah.
both of them, for different reasons, fear for their lives. So the clan leader said, "Well, this is an ambush. A black guy is ambushing me, and I'm going to be murdered today, even though I have my bodyguard here with me." Now a clan leader came. I'm a very peaceful black guy, but upon discovering, finding out that I'm black, my friend there from the bar warned me not to fool around with this guy. He would kill me. So
Mm-hmm.
apparently, this is not very difficult for someone like him to do. So, but at that point, even though that noise seemed kind of a foreign to both of them, but to both of them, it represented a threat to
Mm-hmm.
their lives. And so it was like common fear.
Yes.
You think that this was an outside noise. It had
Mm-hmm.
nothing to do with either one of them.
Yes.
Am I right? So
Yeah.
that was a completely external noise. It had nothing to do with the context of that conversation. That's it.
I did not want my secretary to die. Well, when I came up, my eyes locked with the Klan leader. I didn't say a word. My eyes spoke loud and clear. They were saying to him, "What did you just do?" Well, his eyes had locked with mine. He didn't say a word, but I could read his eyes. His eyes were saying to me, "What did you just do?" And the bodyguard was looking back and forth between both of us like this. "What did either one of y'all just do?" My secretary realized what happened. The ice in the bucket had melted, and the cans of soda came cascading down the ice. And then it made that same noise, and we all began laughing at how ignorant we all had been. Yes, we're enemies. He's the head of the Klan, I'm a black guy. But for that moment, we shared a common laughter. It was a teaching moment. I won't say it was a learning moment yet, but it was a teaching moment. And the lesson taught was this: all because some foreign entity of which we were unaware, that being the bucket of ice and cans of soda, entered into our little comfort zone via the noise that it made, we became fearful and accusatory of one another. The lesson taught is this: ignorance breeds fear. If you do not keep that fear in check, that fear in turn will breed hatred, because we hate those things that frighten us. If you do not keep that hatred in check, that hatred in turn will breed destruction. We want to destroy those things that we hate. Why? Because they frighten us. But guess
So, Leo, what do you think?
Yeah. Very. I think it's a good point, and the story is very good because he can create this. You have a story with people who are actually involved on this conflict, and you can understand the metaphor of that. You know, I didn't understand what happened to the ice bucket. Like, it's the Kansas soda, the name of the
Can of
can
soda,
of soda. Okay, a can.
but it was plural. So cans
Cans
of soda.
of okay. So cans of soda, because the ice melt.
Hmm. So
The
see, the ice had melted inside the bucket.
inside the bucket.
So
Yes.
imagine inside you have a pile of cans, one next to the other, but they were standing on what? They were
On the
standing
ice.
on ice. But ice in room temperature melts, and everything in the bucket adjusted with time as the ice melted, because the
Mm-hmm.
volume of ice and water changed along the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Now I got it. Yeah.
So who but the interesting thing is that the secretary figured it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because both of them were scared. And then
And then they both shared laughter.
hmm when they realized through the secretary that was just a can of soda on the ice.
Mm-hmm.
And then
And then he said at that moment they shared the same feeling, and he said that this was a teaching lesson. This is a teaching moment, not necessarily yet a learning moment, but that was a teaching moment in which he realized that they were they were afraid. They all were afraid, and because they were afraid, they start to be accusatory and aggressive. Their
Mm-hmm.
posture was aggressive,
Mm-hmm.
and he said that then he realized that the fear, the common fear, this fear, they all feared for their lives. So this fear breeds um, hate, and then if you don't put this fear in check, if you don't
If you
if you
don't if you don't keep them in check, in other words, you keep this under control. It's
under
okay.
control, that would turn,
Mm-hmm.
and the fear would, the hate would breed destruction, and then you will start to try to destruct what you fear.
Yes, because that's what we do, right? We
We try to destroy what fright fright
frightens
us.
us. What frightens us, right? It's very good. Everything that I mean, the way you explained and everything you understood. But it's interesting because there's only one thing missing, which is the very first word that triggers this whole process. Do you remember what was the first word he used to talk about this chain of events and how one is connected to the other, how one feeling leads to the next? Well,
The ignorance,
exactly,
what they
exactly,
don't know. If they fear what they don't know, they start to hate.
exactly. Because you see, he used the bucket, right, as a metaphor. The bu- what was the message there? I mean, what was the bottom line? Well, they were both ignorant. By ignorant, I mean
Not
lacking,
knowing.
not knowing, lacking information. So neither of neither one of them knew where the noise was coming from. So both of them were ignorant. As a result of that, they were afraid. They became aggressive, right? They because you know, and it's funny because prior to that moment, he was saying, "Well, we were like in our comfort zone, and then a foreign entity." He was describing the bucket of ice, and he said that that entity, that foreign entity, entered their comfort zone through by the means of the noise it made. That's how the bucket of ice entered their comfort zone. And it was something that neither of them understood. Neither of them uh, understood, knew what it was. And what we don't know makes us uncomfortable, makes us scared and afraid, and so on.
Hmm.
Okay, we're running out of time now, though, and I don't wanna hold you here for too long. But let me ask you a question. Based on what you've seen so far, what do you expect to see towards the end of this conversation, towards the end of this video?
I don't know. Probably this realization, this process of understanding the
Mm-hmm.
fears that the white guys from the KKK have,
Mm-hmm.
and how, I don't know, something um, on this direction. Like trying to
Mm-hmm.
understand what was their fear.
Mm-hmm. So, and you know, well, just to wrap up, I just would like to ask you a question. Don't you think that what Darrow is doing by telling us the story and asking questions and using the metaphors the way they're doing, don't you think it makes us think? For instance, because you know, in our very first class about this subject, I asked you how much you knew about the Ku Klux Klan,
Hmm.
and in a way, when you have to answer this question, even though we know something because we know what the media uh, tells us, right? I mean, I never did any research on what the Ku Klux Klan is, in fact. But we know something, right? We see them as racists, we see them as supremacists, and so on. And even though we are not black, do you fear them? Because I do. You know,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I fear them. I don't see them as friendly people, as somebody I could have a drink sitting at a table at a bar or something like that. So then, what I'm trying to say is that what Darrow is telling me is my ignorance actually plays a part too.
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe I'm completely right in being afraid of them. But the fact is, isn't it true that perhaps the fear I have is actually because I know very little? I'm not saying that we should defend them. I'm not saying,
Yeah. Be
but
careful with that. I would
no, no,
never
no, no,
defend them.
no, not at all. But I'm just using the principle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
Uh-huh.
know, for example, I don't like rap music. Okay, for example, I don't know if you do. Do you like rap music?
Yes.
Okay, do you like funk?
Yes.
Okay, I hate both of them. But what I'm trying to say is that videos like this, they have an impact on me because they make me question myself.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, say something like this. Okay, Alfred, let's start with the bottom line here. How much do you know about rap? I know very little, practically nothing. I know
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the melody. I don't like the way they dress. I don't like the aggressiveness I see in them. But the truth is, I know nothing about the origin of this musical movement. The same thing with funk. I associate that with criminality, with criminals in Rio de Janeiro, and so on. But now I'm realizing how wrong I am, because in order to form an opinion, I'm gonna have to get more instructed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. This part you're perfectly right. I totally agree with you. You have, and this is why it's kind of what why um I've always loved the fact that even though I don't work with journalism, I study journalism because I believe that this is that the media plays a big role in our society that is providing the right, the most accurate, accurate,
Accurate,
accurate
accurate.
information and bringing the relevant side of each story. So this is why I truly believe in the power of knowledge and in this with this vision that we have to learn more if you want to say something.
Right, totally. I completely agree with you. So, my dear friend, thank you again for joining me.
Hmm.
Uh, and if you don't mind, we're going to carry on with this in our next session. Okay?
Okay.
I have a feeling that next class we might be able to finish it. Okay?
Cool.
Thanks again. See you on Monday next week.
Yeah. Have a
Okay?
good week.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Take care.